What if the only permission you have ever needed was already inside you? What if the life you long for is not waiting for a crowd's approval, not waiting for the applause of family, friends, or teachers, but only waiting for the moment when you stand silently with yourself and say, "Yes, I allow this. Yes, this belongs to me." Many feel trapped in the cycle of needing confirmation from others. They believe manifestation requires external support, shared energy, or collective agreement. Yet this creates dependency, a hidden chain tying their vision to the perceptions of others. And so the dream lingers, always waiting, always postponed, always one more approval away. But manifestation has never been a collective act. It is an intimate conversation between your consciousness and the unseen. Neville Goddard taught that no one can assume for you. Imagination is individual. It is sovereign. What you dare to embody in silence, without witnesses, without cheerleaders, becomes flesh. Bruce Lipton from the realm of science echoes this spiritual truth. Your cells do not respond to the world itself, but to the way you perceive it. Your inner state, the story you privately accept, writes the script of your reality. And so the true power is not in seeking validation. The true power is in perception. It is in choosing, in solitude, the state you claim as real. Maybe you've felt it, the quiet doubt that arises when no one seems to see your vision. Maybe you've shared a dream only to watch faces wrinkle with skepticism, and suddenly your faith grew weaker. You are not wrong for wanting others to believe, but you are forgetting the secret. Creation does not begin in collective noise. It begins in solitary silence, like a seed buried in darkness, hidden beneath the soil, unseen by every eye. Your desire germinates before anyone else can notice, and just like that seed, your manifestation requires time in the unseen. It needs the hidden ground of your own consciousness, nourished by your faith, protected from the winds of opinion. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is incubation. Loneliness is not a curse. Loneliness, when entered consciously, becomes the sacred womb of transformation. You don't need the validation of the world. You don't need permission from family, friends, or strangers. You don't need a cheerleader or a sign from outside. The only sign you need is the feeling that rises within when you dare to say, "It is already mine." Imagine for a moment that all external voices disappear. No approval, no doubt, no questioning eyes, only you, your breath, and the quiet pulse of life inside you. Can you feel how clear it becomes? Can you feel how the noise fades and the truth stands firm? That is the moment when manifestation begins. Not when the world agrees, but when you decide in the privacy of your soul. Tonight, or in the quiet of your next morning, allow yourself to withdraw from the crowd of thoughts and opinions. Go into your inner room, as Neville said. Shut the door to every voice but your own. Stand before the vast silence of your imagination and declare yourself to be what you desire. Do not wait for someone else to say yes. Say it to yourself. Feel it in your body. Breathe as if it is already done. For it is not the crowd that creates your life. It is you standing alone, aligned with the truth of your chosen state. And in that solitude, you will discover the most liberating revelation. You never needed anyone else to make it real. There is a kind of silence that is not absence, but presence. A silence that does not feel like loneliness, but like a sacred pause before creation. When you step away from the noise of the world, the constant hum of opinions, expectations, and doubts, you enter the true birthplace of manifestation. Neville Goddard called it the inner room. Go into your closet and shut the door. He wasn't speaking of wood and hinges. He was pointing toward that secret chamber within, where imagination lives unbothered by the outside world. It is here, in stillness, that creation begins. Many struggle because they rely on group energy, on collective support, on the encouragement of friends or family. But the truth is that relying on others dilutes your authority. Their voices, whether positive or doubtful, scatter the focus of your attention, and attention is the substance of creation. Imagine light shining through stained glass, fragmented and dispersed. Now imagine the same light concentrated into a single beam. Which one burns through obstacles? Which one transforms what it touches? Solitude concentrates your energy. It makes you whole again, unfragmented, aligned. Silence is not the same as isolation. It is not punishment, nor is it deprivation. Silence is incubation. Just as the earth holds a seed in the dark, nourishing it invisibly before the sprout breaks through the surface. Your inner silence nurtures the invisible seed of your desire. No one applauds the seed underground. No one celebrates its hidden growth. Yet in that unseen solitude, it becomes strong enough to face the light. Feel into this for a moment. Imagine sitting alone, with nothing but your breath, your heart, and the picture of your fulfilled desire. No one else is there to confirm or deny it. No one else is there to approve or reject it. And yet in that aloneness there is a clarity, a strength, a power that cannot be found in the crowd. This is where manifestation truly begins, not in the applause of others, but in the silent certainty of your own being. There is a hidden weight that many carry without realizing it. It is the subtle, almost invisible delay that comes from waiting for others to agree before allowing themselves to believe. You may know the feeling, when a desire arises in your heart, but instead of holding it quietly within, you share it, hoping that someone else's nod, someone else's words, will confirm that you are not foolish for dreaming. And yet, in that very act, the purity of your vision is weakened. For every approving word there is also doubt, and doubt has a way of entering deeper than approval ever could. Neville Goddard revealed a truth that cuts through this illusion. Your assumption alone, if persisted in, hardens into fact. No outside witness is required. No one else needs to believe before it becomes real. Reality does not unfold according to the crowd's agreement, but according to the quiet consistency of your inner acceptance. And yet many delay their manifestation by leaning on the fragile scaffolding of approval, forgetting that their inner consent is the only true authority. Psychologists speak of social validation bias, the tendency to measure our choices against the reactions of others. It creates loops of dependency, where even the most powerful vision must first pass through the filter of another's belief. But manifestation does not work this way. Imagine an entrepreneur who conceives a vision of something entirely new. If he were to explain it too soon, he would be surrounded not by support, but by skepticism. His success comes because he carries his vision silently until it breathes its own life into the world. Only then does the world agree. Do you see the sabotage? Waiting for others to believe before you believe is the surest way to prevent belief from ever taking root. What you carry in consciousness is sacred. It is the spark of creation entrusted to you and you alone. If you let it be swayed by the doubts of others, it will wither before it grows. But if you hold it silently, faithfully as your inner truth, it becomes unshakable. The invisible sabotage of seeking approval loses its power the moment you remember that your inner vision requires no audience. It only requires your persistence, your faith, and your willingness to stand alone with what you know is already real. Your inner consent is the only authority. There is a quiet but powerful illusion that traps many seekers of manifestation, the belief that they must somehow receive permission from the world before their desires can take shape. It may appear subtle, like waiting for circumstances to improve before daring to imagine something greater, or holding back until family, friends, or mentors approve of the dream. Yet this belief is the greatest limitation of all. For nothing in your outer world has the right to grant or withhold the reality you carry within. Neville Goddard reminded us again and again, the only consent required is self-consent. To assume the identity of your desired self is to step into sovereignty. You are not a subject awaiting decrees from the outer world. You are the sovereign mind declaring reality. Consider the image of a king. When he declares a law, he does not ask the permission of his subjects. He does not take a vote or wait for their approval. His word alone shapes the order of his kingdom. And so it is with your consciousness. The moment you consent inwardly, your world begins to reflect that inner decree. The pain comes when you forget this authority. You hesitate, you explain, you negotiate with reality, as if the universe is reluctant and must be persuaded. Yet the truth is much simpler. The universe reflects only the state you accept. Not the words you say, not the effort you make, but the silent agreement you hold with yourself. When you give yourself full consent to embody the new identity, without waiting for signs or permission, you step into alignment with the creative law itself. Imagine standing before your desire, not as a beggar, but as one who already is. Feel the weight of those words. I consent. It is not pleading. It is not waiting. It is not seeking confirmation. It is the sovereign acceptance of what already belongs to you in consciousness. And from that moment on, Your outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself in harmony with the truth you have accepted within. There are two words that carry within them the seed of all creation: I am. To speak them with awareness is to awaken the divine law within you. Neville Goddard taught that I am is the name of God. Every time you declare it consciously, you breathe life into a state of being. To say I am followed by your desired state is not a weak affirmation or wishful thinking. It is a decree, a command, a shaping of reality from the inside out. This is why solitude matters. When you are alone with these words, their vibration is pure. They are not diluted by the doubts of others, not mixed with skepticism, not shadowed by someone else's fear. Alone, you can declare I am in its truest form. And in that silence, it begins to take root in your subconscious as natural, effortless truth. You may begin by whispering softly, I am wealthy. At first, the words may feel foreign, like wearing an outfit that does not yet fit. But with repetition, not mechanical but heartfelt, the words begin to settle into your body. You feel your breath change, your posture shift, your chest expand. Soon it no longer feels like an affirmation, it feels like remembrance. Consider the image of a musician tuning an instrument before the symphony begins. No one hears the tuning, no one applauds it, yet without it the music would be dissonant. In solitude, repeating I am is your tuning. You align your inner frequency with the state you have chosen, so that when life plays its notes around you, you remain in harmony. This is the secret beauty of the solitary I am. Each time you enter this exercise, you are not merely imagining. You are stepping into communion with your own higher self. You are declaring that the divine spark within you is not separate from the state you desire. It is already complete. And the more you repeat it in solitude, the more natural it becomes, until it feels as though you have always been this person and always will be. That is when the assumption has ripened. That is when manifestation becomes inevitable. There is a subtle but powerful danger in revealing your desire too soon. Many people, out of excitement or vulnerability, share their vision with others in the hope of encouragement. Yet what they often receive is doubt, criticism, or silent disbelief. And when those energies reach the tender seed of your assumption, they act like cold winds against a fragile sprout. Instead of rising freely, your vision bends under the weight of someone else's fear. Neville Goddard spoke clearly of this truth. The world reflects your assumptions. If you allow another's disbelief to enter your state, you are no longer carrying your own vision. You are carrying theirs. Modern psychology mirrors this principle through the study of mirror neurons. When we are in the presence of strong emotions, our brains synchronize with them. If someone projects doubt or fear, and you are still fragile in your assumption, your inner state risks aligning with their disbelief instead of your desire. This is why guarding your inner world matters so deeply. The desire you hold is sacred. It is the embryo of your new reality. Sharing it with those who cannot see it yet is like leaving a flame unprotected in the wind. Their doubts are not a reflection of truth, but of their own limitations. Still, if you let their voices enter, those limitations can echo inside you as if they were your own. Consider the image of a gardener who has just planted a seed. He does not dig it up every day to show others, asking if they think it will grow. He knows that constant exposure will destroy it. Instead, he covers it gently, waters it silently, and waits in quiet faith. In the same way, your manifestation requires protection. It needs time in solitude, held steady in your imagination, until it is strong enough to withstand the reactions of others. When you feel tempted to share your vision too early, remember this: your inner world is the birthplace of your outer reality. Protect it until it is strong enough to stand without explanation. By doing so, you not only preserve the purity of your assumption, but you also honor the sacred process by which the unseen becomes seen, the identity lock-in effect. There is a particular struggle many encounter on their manifestation journey. They begin with strength in imagination, feeling the spark of a new reality, but slowly lose power by explaining or defending their desire to others. Every explanation leaks energy. Every attempt to justify your vision to those who cannot see it drains the vitality of the assumption that should have remained whole. Neville Goddard taught that the key is persistence in the end, remaining faithful to the state of the wish fulfilled until it feels completely natural. No explanation is ever required, because your reality is not voted into existence by others. It is generated by the quiet conviction you carry within. The moment you begin to explain, you shift from assumption to argument. And argument weakens creation, because it gives energy to the possibility of disbelief. Think of an architect with a blueprint. He does not ask random passers-by if the building will stand. He knows the integrity of the design because he has studied it, envisioned it, and committed to it. To explain the vision to those who cannot see is to invite them to alter it with their doubts. But to hold the vision silently is to protect its wholeness until the structure itself arises. The identity lock-in effect is this: the more you live in your assumed state without defending it, the more it solidifies as your natural identity. Each day you resist the urge to explain, the stronger the assumption becomes. It is not about proving your vision to others. It is about embodying it so completely that you no longer feel the need to speak it aloud. In this way, you lock into the identity you have chosen. You seal yourself in the vibration of your fulfilled self, and when that identity becomes normal, when it feels less like imagining and more like remembering, then the world must mirror it back to you. Your power is not in explanation. Your power is in silent embodiment. To be alone does not mean to be weakened. In truth, solitude concentrates energy, while dispersion in the crowd often fragments it. There is a kind of strength that emerges only when the noise of the world is silenced, when your attention rests fully in your chosen state. In that moment, your energy is no longer scattered among doubts, fears, and other people's stories. It becomes whole, unified, magnetic. Bruce Lipton reminds us that coherence is the true language of power. At the cellular level, the body responds to consistent signals, not to fragmented ones. A mind divided between what it desires and what it fears sends conflicting messages to the body and the field around it. But when solitude allows you to focus purely on the end you have chosen, your cells, your emotions, and your energy field all move into alignment. You begin to embody the vibration of authority, not over others, but over yourself, over your own inner reality. Neville Goddard described this as faith in the unseen, the concentrated act of assumption. Faith is not scattered attention, constantly shaken by appearances. Faith is focus. It is choosing one state and holding it until it feels inevitable. And this holding is best cultivated in solitude, where no external voice can intrude, and where the whisper of your own higher self becomes audible. Athletes know this truth well. Before the crowd ever witnesses a victory, the athlete has already rehearsed it alone in the mind. The stadium sees the result, but the victory was first won in solitude. Visualization, repetition, silent embodiment, these unseen acts of focus create a magnetic authority that later shines before others. Your solitude is not an absence. It is a lens, concentrating light into a single point, and like focused light, it burns through resistance and carves a path. When you allow yourself to remain alone with your vision long enough, the authority of that vision grows undeniable. Others may sense it without words, drawn to you not because you seek their approval, but because your alignment radiates with coherence. Solitude makes your assumption magnetic. There is a moment on the path of manifestation when silence can feel heavy, when the absence of voices, the absence of company, begins to echo as loneliness. Many mistake this feeling as a sign that they are on the wrong path. They believe that if their vision were true, someone else would be there to walk beside them. Yet what appears as loneliness is often the sacred space where power is being born. Neville Goddard reminded us that imagination is never solitary. When you enter your inner world, you are not alone. You are in communion with the greater I am, with your future self already alive within you. Loneliness is not the truth. It is a misperception, a veil covering the recognition that in imagination you are always accompanied by the self you are becoming. Each time you sit with your desire in solitude, you are not abandoned. You are seated in council with your higher identity. It is there that the old self dissolves and the new self is given life. It is there that faith grows, not because of external support, but because of the unshakable bond formed between you and the state you are choosing to embody. This is the alchemy of solitude. It transmutes the heaviness of loneliness into the lightness of authority, the burden of absence into the blessing of communion. Think of a candle in the darkness. It may seem solitary, standing alone with no other flame around it. Yet within that single candle burns the same fire as the sun itself. Its isolation is not weakness, but purity. It holds within it the essence of all light, undivided and whole. So it is with you in your moments of solitude. The world may not yet see the fullness of your light, but in your imagination, you are already burning with the fire of your desired state. Loneliness, when transmuted, becomes a reminder. You are never truly alone. You are always in the presence of your higher self, of your chosen identity, of the infinite I Am that is creation itself. And as you recognize this, the feeling of isolation dissolves. What remains is power, quiet, stable, and radiant. There is a sacred moment in the process of creation when your desire is still tender, still forming, still rooting itself deeply within you. At this stage, it is fragile, not because it is weak, but because it is becoming. To expose it too soon, to reveal it before it has gathered its full strength, is to risk dispersing the very energy that gives it life. Neville Goddard often urged his students to keep their assumptions secret until they manifested. He knew that silence is not about secrecy for its own sake, but about protection. When you reveal a desire prematurely, you invite the reactions of others, their doubts, their disbelief, even their envy. And these external energies can act as a cold wind, scattering the warmth of your conviction before it has had the chance to solidify. Psychology confirms this spiritual law. Studies have shown that when you share a goal too soon, the brain releases dopamine as if the goal were already accomplished. The satisfaction of talking about it replaces the drive to live it, weakening the inner momentum that manifestation requires. By speaking before the vision has matured, you spend the energy meant for creation on conversation instead. Consider the metaphor of an artist sketching the first lines of a masterpiece. If the canvas is revealed too early, the unfinished image can invite criticism that distorts the artist's hand. But if the work remains hidden until the vision is complete, it stands with its full authority, needing no defense. So too with your desires. They deserve the privacy of gestation until they are ready to stand on their own in the visible world. Silence, then, is not repression. It is spiritual strategy. It is the wise choice to protect your vision from the premature touch of doubt, to allow it to grow strong in the fertile soil of your imagination before exposing it to the winds of the external world. And when the time comes, when your assumption has matured into fact, it will reveal itself naturally, effortlessly, without the need for explanation. Every manifestation that has ever come into this world began first as a solitary assumption. No one else witnessed it. No one else believed it. It lived at first in the unseen, carried quietly within the consciousness of the one who dared to claim it as real. Neville Goddard taught that evidence never comes first. Faith comes first. Imagination comes first. The outer world is always the echo, never the source. And yet this is the pain so many encounter. They long for proof before they commit. They want the signs, the confirmations, the early evidence that will assure them it is safe to believe. But manifestation does not operate in this way. The law is precise. Evidence follows assumption. Just as the oak tree cannot appear before the acorn is planted, your desired reality cannot emerge before you embody it in imagination. To wait for proof is to wait forever. To assume without proof is to set creation in motion. History offers us countless examples. Edison carried the light bulb in his imagination long before it lit the world. The Wright brothers carried flight within them long before the sky carried their invention. They stood alone in the face of doubt, ridicule, and disbelief because the victory was already real within them. And in time, the world could not help but bend to the authority of their inner conviction. This is the solitary victory principle. What you dare to embody in silence, consistently and faithfully, becomes fact. The world does not need to agree. The crowd does not need to see. Your victory exists first within, and when it matures, the external world has no choice but to reflect it back. Picture the acorn hidden in the soil. Alone, unseen, and seemingly insignificant, it already contains the fullness of the oak tree within it. It does not beg for recognition. It does not demand applause. It simply holds its identity in silence until the day comes when it stands tall, undeniable, and strong. In the same way, your manifestation already exists within you, whole and complete, solitary, certain, waiting only for your persistence in assumption. Manifestation is, at its essence, a solitary act. Though the world may try to convince you otherwise, though voices may insist that change requires collective agreement or external validation, the truth remains. Every creation begins with one consciousness, daring to accept a new state as real. Neville Goddard expressed it with clarity. God and I are majority. With those words, he revealed a secret most overlook, that the moment you and your inner divinity stand together in agreement, no opposition in the external world can outweigh it. You no longer require approval, applause, or understanding. What you hold within is already enough. There is a common mistake many fall into without noticing, scattering their attention in the hope of reinforcement. They speak of their dreams, hoping someone will reassure them. They watch endlessly for signs, hoping the universe will confirm what they have not yet dared to fully embody. But this scattering weakens the very power meant to bring the dream alive. True manifestation asks for coherence. It asks for singular focus, and coherence is born in solitude, where distractions fall away and the only voice left is the whisper of your own higher self. Bruce Lipton's discoveries in biology mirror this law. He showed that your cells do not respond directly to the environment, but to your perception of it. In other words, the way you interpret reality, the meaning you give it, the state you assume, becomes the signal your body obeys. If your perception is fragmented, pulled between faith and fear, your body reflects that confusion. But if your perception is whole, if you have chosen a state and committed to it, your biology and your environment reorganize in harmony with it. This means that your private decision, your solitary perception, carries the authority to rewrite both your inner and outer worlds. Consider the lighthouse standing on the edge of the sea. It does not move, does not chase, does not plead. Alone in the storm, it remains steady, and in its steadiness it becomes a guide. Ships do not look for crowds of lights. They seek the single, unwavering beam that cuts through the darkness. In the same way, your solitary alignment shines more brightly than 1,000 scattered attempts to convince or be convinced. Your authority is magnetic, not because of numbers, but because of purity. This is why silence and solitude are not empty. They are fertile. They are the womb where reality gestates. The world may misinterpret your stillness as isolation, but within that stillness your vision is growing roots. Just as the seed in the soil requires time away from the eyes of others, your manifestation requires hidden time in your imagination. No one applauds the seed underground, but when it emerges, no one can deny the tree. Neville insisted that imagination is the creative act of God. When you imagine, you are not pretending. You are participating in the eternal work of creation. To imagine alone, to assume alone, is to stand directly with the infinite, shaping reality at its source. This is why external validation is unnecessary. Once you have accepted your desire as real within, the work is complete in substance. The external world is only the unfolding shadow of what you have already dared to embody. There will be moments when doubt arises, when silence feels like abandonment, when solitude feels heavy. But in those moments, remember, you are not abandoned. You are accompanied by the future self you are becoming. You are sitting in communion with the greater I am that holds all states. Loneliness is the illusion, presence is the truth, and when you allow yourself to sink into that presence, you feel the weight of certainty pressing gently into your heart. One assumption outweighs 1,000 doubts. One steady I am spoken in the silence carries more power than 1,000 scattered prayers spoken with uncertainty. The universe does not measure by numbers. It responds to the vibration of conviction. And conviction is not built in the crowd. It is built when you stand alone with your inner God, unwavering and whole. And so, the question lingers, not as pressure, but as invitation. What if the solitude you resist is the very womb of the reality you long for? What if the silence you avoid is the very place where your victory is waiting? What if, in truth, you have never been alone, but always in the company of God within, guiding, shaping, whispering, it is done. Your task is not to prove. Your task is not to persuade. Your task is to consent, to align, to remember that when you stand alone with God within, you already carry the majority, and from that place, everything else must follow.